You are about to watch the third part of a Space Odyssey analysis. Previously, I taught about the interpretation of the meanings of light, color and object shape in the film, as well as relationship between fathers and children. The links to the first two parts of the review you can find in the description to this video. In the third part, I'm going to talk about the meaning of music, of film and perspective, and finally about what really happens in the strange room where Dave Bowman lives before turning into Star Child. Let's start with music. First, it is important to note that in many tense or emotional scenes, music is absent. On the one hand, it makes such moments more realistic. On the other hand, it means that for these episodes, Stanley Kubrick expects not emotional, but rational reaction from the viewer. Normally, music is used in cinema exactly to evoke an emotional response, but Kubrick designed music to convey certain ideas to the audience. The main musical theme of the film is Richard Strauss's symphonic poem Thus Spoke Zarathustra. It refers us to Nietzsche's theory of a superhuman, and exactly the emergence of a superhuman is what we are going to see on the screen. Thus Spoke Zarathustra sounds 3 times, and each time at those moments we see the results of the interference of a higher force that has influenced humanity, when a primitive human masters his first tool and descends to a new stage of evolution. When a modern human becomes a new, disembodied form of life. And also the opening credits appear in unison with this music, and the main title appears at the climax of the melody. We can assume that the authors, Kubrick and Clarke, believed that their film was at least very important for understanding of the evolution process. But why not imagine that A Space Odyssey is also a kind of the higher force interference? Ligeti's frightening overture sounds twice, with the background of total darkness. These are 2 musical illustrations of chaos before the development spurts at the very beginning of the story and during the intermission. The waltz by Johann Strauss, The Blue Danube, is played twice. For the first time it illustrates the peak of human civilization in the year 2001. The second time the waltz is played after the return of Star Child to Earth, during the final credits, and most importantly, long after them, with the background of complete darkness. It repeats the meaning of its first sounding, conveying a feeling of successful progress of humanity. This is something transcendent, an idea that cannot be brought in words or by images accessible to modern representation. Therefore, we do not see a superhuman born, but only his embryo, and we do not see images of the future Earth, but only a dark screen, even after the end title. Four times Kubrick used the perspective of filming to convey the idea of evolutionary spurt. A primitive man killing a tapir his neighbor in the ecosystem, is pictured from the bottom up, so that he seems larger than his real size. Its importance in the world is growing. By the way, the bone thrown up by his hand rotates first counterclockwise, then in the opposite direction. And the circular orbital station rotates in two directions during one episode. This means that both tools are absolutely obedient to a human hand. The second time we see the giant Discovery ship captured by Hal, and the entire crew is now killed. The last human resisting the supercomputer is Dave Bowman. He hovers in front of Discovery in a small pod. The importance of a human as a species became insignificant compared to Hal. But when Dave returns to the ship and disables Hal's higher functions, the camera shows him from the bottom up. This depicts the growth of a human, just like Dave's ancestor killing a tapir.
I assure you now, stress pill and think things over. I know I've made some.
At the end, the star child approaches Earth, and its embryo size on the screen looks comparable to our planet. Thus, the director shows its importance, comparable to entire humanity. Now a charade that caused a lot of controversy. Why is the space hotel where Dave lives is decorated and furnished in the style resembling the epoch of Louis the Great? This place was prepared for man by incorporeal aliens, so that he could safely end his material existence and go to a new state of life. In his novel 2001, A Space Odyssey, Arthur Clarke mentioned something like a hotel room with a TV that showed Earth programs from 2 years ago. So Dave supposed that the Moon monolith was transmitting information to the Jupiter monolith, including the content of terrestrial television, and the signal was coming 2 years. Kubrick decided that it would be unreliable, so in the film there's no TV in the room. The interior looks not 2 years, but 200 years old. Assume that aliens or their scientific equipment visited the Earth for the last time in the 18th century, and they remembered it like this. In this frame behind Bowman, there's a pastoral painting that clearly indicates the period of time, the middle of the 18th century. A lot of such paintings were then created in the style of François Boucher, depicting a romantic scene between a shepherd and a shepherdess. Throughout the room you can see several similar paintings and decorative figures, and this reveals the shortcomings of copying terrestrial information by aliens, and even more, their disregard for material life. The paintings are placed in the niches that resemble windows. For aliens' eye there might be even no difference between niches and windows. They live in the world where material shape is not significant at all. A broken glass allegorically depicts the destruction of the material, the loss of its significance. Time and space have changed in this place, and Dave is aging very fast. After the moment the glass breaks, he sees himself dying and becomes an embryo of a superhuman. In the next part of the review, I will tell about the relation between A Space Odyssey and the film Artificial Intelligence, made by Stanley Kubrick and Steven Spielberg together.